and conservation team member. Thank you. Matt Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that brings us, at this time, I would like to offer my fellow board members and Dr. Mullins the opportunity to recognize students, staff, or members of the community. Anybody want to volunteer to go first?
I'll go first. I can go first.
Ms. McDougall.
First, I want to do a big shout out to the Cocoa High School students, staff, and the community who participated in Cocoa High School Black History Month breakfast. It was phenomenal. The work that went into it, the people that attended, the community, the choir is always amazing, and the orchestra was beautiful. It was just a wonderful breakfast. It was my first breakfast since being on the board, and it was wonderful. So a shout out to the Cocoa High School staff and students. Also to Gulfview, they had a Black History read-in, and I want to thank the community for coming out and reading to the students and participating in the different classrooms. And it was all around Black History Month and books that were either about or by or written by African Americans or people of color. Another thing that was kind of fun was Tropical Elementary TK, the amazing TK of Miss Wilcox's class. It's just an amazing little class. They had a Dr. Seuss breakfast, and the TK class raised enough money and bought enough books to give every single kindergartner, which is 100 students, a Dr. Seuss book. And at the same time, Merritt Island, Edgewood, Jefferson, I'm forgetting somebody, who am I forgetting? Edgewood, Merritt Island, and Jefferson all came to read to every single child that day in the classroom. So that was really another fun green eggs and ham breakfast. I also want to talk a little bit about the impact pins. I was able to give out several impact pins. One was to a Mr. Burns at Cape View. He's a 6th grade math teacher. And his class did exactly what Kyle did. They stood up and cheered, and they hooted and hollered. So thank you, Mr. Burns, for being such a great math teacher. Then I was at Cocoa High School, another math teacher, Laura Carroll, who teaches algebra. And again, her kids just cheered her on and were very thankful. She, as it said, that she uses empathy, not sympathy, to motivate her children, or students rather, and their scores have all gone up. I also want to give an impact pin to Erin Worcester at Edgewood, the media specialist, where she is a bridge builder and an impact person, and she is the PIE coordinator along with being the media specialist, and she just finished up doing the 20-book read, and they just got back today from a amusement park down in Palm Bay. I'm not sure what it was. Okay, thank you. So I don't know, but anyhow, they did that. And last, for my pins, one of the people, and I can't remember, last week talked about our administrators. And I was fortunate enough to present an impact pin to Principal Reamer at Merritt Island. And I just want to read, I don't have the permission, so I won't give the name of the person who wrote this, but I'd like to read what they said about Mr. Reamer. Please allow me to express my deep appreciation and respect for Mr. James Reamer. I've been teaching for Brevard County Schools since 1997. Prior to that, I was an owner and operator of a child care center, so I like to think that I know a thing or two about teaching and leading. Because I've been feeling this way for some time, I thought I'd take a moment to share some positivity. My experience with Mr. Reamer at Merritt Island High School has been entirely positive. He takes time to make his faculty feel supported and valued. He builds relationships with students and staff that create a sense of community. In person and in writing, he takes time to demonstrate that he values his staff. I recognize that a school administrator's job is enormously difficult, so it is important for us who see excellence to take the time to appreciate it. So I wanted to share that because he's been there, I think this is going on year 3, is that right? And he's pretty amazing, and we're very glad that he's there. And then I just got this, hot off the press, and this is my last thing, I promise. I think this is going to be, might be in our Heart of Brevard upcoming, but I just thought it was important to read this, and this goes out to Cape View Elementary School. This all began on December 7th, 2019, when I received the worst phone call of my life. My oldest of 3 kids was in an accident while visiting her father for the weekend and ended up in critical condition in Arnold Palmer Hospital. She ended up staying in the PICU for 2.5 weeks and was discharged on Christmas Eve. We finally got to come home and try to get back to normal routine and schedule, but being a single parent of 3 kids is not easy. Not only did the staff of Cape View Elementary help my kids and I with Christmas presents and food, they were there for us emotionally. They have been there and willing to help with anything and everything. I honestly don't think I could have gotten through this tough time if it wasn't for them. The amazing thing is that it just wasn't one person helping. It was every staff member at Cape View. Whether they made dinner for us or offered to take my daughter to her many appointments, they went above and beyond. We will be forever thankful. And I want to say thank you very much to all the Cape View staff. It's an amazing school, like so many of our schools, but thank you to Cape View and their staff. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Ms. Deskovich.
I think we just had a scout troop enter
We
the
did.
room. Are you guys here visiting? You're doing maybe working on a badge for government or something of that nature? What troop are you from?
701 in Maranatha.
701. So welcome to Troop 701. We're glad to have you guys tonight. Shout outs for me. I'm going to start with Stone Middle School Black History Celebration. They have this every year, and the students perform, and they read poetry, and they dance, and it is fantastic. And as much as I love all that part of the event, my absolute favorite part of the event is that Macedonia Baptist Church comes and they cook all the food. And there's so much food, and it is like down-home Southern cooking. And it was fantastic. So thank you to Stone Middle School, to Miss Golding, she was the program director this year, and to Macedonia Baptist Church for all their volunteers that cook all that food, come in and serve the food and clean up. Matt, you know those ladies, and
Some of my best friends back then.
they are just, their hearts are so huge. It was a fabulous event and a fabulous day. Next, most of you know about the program Tied Together. It's Mr. Outlaw comes into the schools and teaches, they get mentors, male mentors to come into the school, and they teach young men how to shake hands, look you in the eye, and they all learn how to tie ties. And I attended to the one at West Shore last week. Interestingly enough, I think there was 4 young men, 4 that knew how to tie a tie. 4. How is that humanly possible? So it's apparently a much-needed skill to be taught in our schools. But the neat thing is a lot of our schools now are developing programs for young women. And that day I also attended the program that their guidance staff put together with the SRO for the young woman. And I thought it was an exceptional program. They called it Empower Her. And they talked about a lot of life skills for women. And, you know, we've come a long way from when I used to have to, when we did that, I don't know about how, I guess we're all about the same age. I don't know about you all, but when they would divide us up when we were kids, right, the women learned how to sew and make dinner for your husband. So this was not that quality. This was talking about girls in college and education, and there was some from the SRO on protecting yourself and things of that nature. So I thought it was really, really successful. And then today, O'Galley High School did the same thing, and they put on, they probably brought in 75 professional women from the community, everything from judges, Judge Jacobus was there, attorneys, women, just everything, drag car racing with, Larson Motorsports, two of the girls that work there, you name it. They had veterinarian, women pilots, and then they divided up all of the girl student body over 4 sessions, and the girls got to pick which adult mentor they wanted to sit with, which was a little unnerving. It felt a little bit like middle school, like when you're the last one picked for PE. Not that was ever me. So you were hoping the kids wanted to sit with you and found you interesting enough, and it was remarkable. It was really, really.
Anybody sit with you?
So you had 4 separate groups, and you had to almost sell yourself in the beginning, like say what you did. And so the first time I was like, I'm Tina Deskovich, I'm on the school board. And I will say like onesie, twosie showed up. And so the next level, so for the sophomores, I was like, if you want to learn about politics, come see me, right? And so then I got more over there. And so I learned with each class. By the seniors, I had a full class. So it was really great, though. They talked about, the whole name of the event was Worthy. And what about self-worth for these girls, because the guidance department put it together with our former last year teacher of the year, Ms. Shannon Kraling, and they said that they felt like the girls in their school, the source of all their problems that they come to them with was a lack of self-worth, and where you get your self-worth from. And so in those little small groups, we just had 5 girls with each one of us. We talked on a very individual basis about where that comes from. Does your self-worth come from social media? Does it come from your friends? Or does it come from your family and from yourself? And so I thought it was a phenomenal program. And they actually ordered and put together, and I think Ms. Kraling made them, these beautiful little bracelets that had Worthy on one side, and then on the other side it had the Anchor logo from the school with Galley High School on there. And we gave those to each of the girls. I think it was a pretty impactful event. So I just wanted to thank their social worker, their guidance department, and especially Ms. Kraling for putting that together and bringing the community together to support our young women. And then last week, the parent leadership team meeting, and I just want to thank our parents that are a member of that. They drive from all over the county. Some of them have to bring their littles with them because they're moms and the kids are home with them, or dads, or there were dads there with their small kids too. But they make an effort to get here, and some of those distances are like 45 minutes if you're way up in Titusville or way down in the south end of the county. And they come to be educated on what's going on in our district. And this month's meeting I thought was exceptionally fantastic. Dr. Mullins took the time to be there and just had open mic and let them ask questions, and he just gave them honest answers, and it was a good listening session. So thank you, Dr. Mullins, for doing that, and for the team, the parent leadership team, Jenny Gleason and all her people that put that together every month, and for all the parents that put their time in to serve on that committee. Thanks, Ms. Belford. I know that was extremely long.
No worries. Thank you, Ms. Deskovich. Mr. Susan, you ready?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Ms. Hamilton and the Canine Commandos. I went and met with them on Monday, and they said that you guys are all big supporters of their organization. I think that being with those kids is what we love to do, and at the same time, they had a grant that didn't come through for them, and they reapplied for the same grant to Petco, and the grant didn't come through again. They heard word like 2 days ago. So they're down some revenue, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with them on getting into some businesses in my local area and raising some funds. So we're going to do some fun videos. And if they said, can we get the other school board members to do a video with us also? So depending on how my first one goes and nobody's attacked by any animals, then I think you guys could come on. And
Are they bringing us dogs?
they're bringing dogs to locations and doing fun videos. So it would be a fun thing to do. Yeah, we have one behind the counter actually just a minute ago. So, but I did want to say thank you to Virginia, Ms. Hamilton, for the Canine Commandos and everything that she does in that regard, because that is an amazing program. And I think that they're going to try to start working on therapy dogs inside the schools too, which would be great. Not the kids doing it, but actually bringing in certified professionals to do that and funding source to bring that through. The next thing is I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Scott Rook for meeting with me over the security issues the other day. He had some great ideas, so I'm going to bring those forward to our security meetings that we have coming up. Also, the innovation games, Ms. Lukton did an amazing job. Those of you guys that are in the Scouts that don't know about our innovation games, but we have absolutely every single drone racing, underwater drones, product pitching. We have all of the major corporations come together at the Florida Solar Energy Center, and what ended up happening was everything that you wish it could be.
competition, kids getting excited. One kid literally ran across the gym when his team won the drone race for middle school, which was the enthusiasm that I have never seen before in that STEM competition. But I did want to reach out to Ms. Cluis from AFTAC, and I've asked them to come on the 24th meeting, and I'm sort of making sure that's okay with you guys in a second. But I saw something, they came and presented at Croton Elementary School, and they go to many of your schools. But I wanted to say that I have never seen what I saw. So I went in, and the student engagement was out of control. They brought in, they were freezing stuff, they were shattering the frozen stuff. Kids were all circled around that. And then they had this polyurethane and cup that was going up, and kids, there were so many kids running from place to place. And I have taught for 9 years, and I have never seen the engagement out of a small STEM program as I did that night with those organizations, and they are there helping out. And on the way out, this is the truth, and I'm putting stuff inside the car, and this kid comes out and says, "Mommy, thank you for bringing me to this STEM tonight. It meant so much to me." And here I'm thinking, these kids, you can't ask them to get to school. And this kid came after school, and he was so happy that his mom brought him there, and that's what it was all about. So I wanted to say thank you to AFTAC and Ms. Cluis for what they did. And that's it. And I had some other things on the innovation games that I was going to talk about later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. Ms. Campbell?
All right, I've got a lot, but I'm going to go fast. So the Elementary Music Festival was a couple of Saturdays ago, and I want to say congratulations to the students and teachers for putting on a wonderful day of concerts. They did a fabulous job. Speaking of music, the Department of Education put out, along with Florida Music Education Association, this year's Florida Arts Model Schools. Now, we have a lot of those in Brevard County, but the new ones coming on for this year include Central Middle School, yay, O'Galley High School, Kennedy Middle School, Quest Elementary, and Southlake Elementary. And then the Advancing Arts grant included Cambridge Elementary. And so congratulations, those schools. Some of the criteria, one of the biggest criteria of that is this percentage of participation of your students in an arts program, whether it's band, chorus, art, or drama. So congratulations to those schools. Also want to recognize Miss Deborah Foley from Government and Community Relations, who has been nominated for the Excellence in Mentorship Award. That's part of the Women Who Rock Awards from Florida Tech-Bisque College of Business, the We Venture organization that they have. So congratulations to Miss Foley. Bruce Lindsay from Facilities, our Manager of Energy and Resources Conservation, was given the 2020 Best of Green Schools Award, so congratulations to him. And let's see, oh, I am going fast. So last week I was at West Melbourne School for Science talent show, and it was like a normal school talent show. Kids got up and they danced and they sang and they played the piano, but I just have to say there was some really great moments of the night. My favorite moments of the night are when the principal, Miss Benson, got up and sang with her daughter. One of my son's former math teachers got up and played a drumline solo, Mr. Baker, and then a handful of other teachers, Miss Popper, Miss Panda, a couple others, got up and danced to a country song. I just have to highlight those teachers and the principal, because when they get up and do that, it just, I mean, the kids went crazy. It just was such an awesome moment for them to share their heart and their talent, and I don't care how old you are, it's nerve-wracking to get up and on the stage in front of a whole cafetorium full of students and their parents. So thank you to those teachers and Ms. Benson, the principal, for sharing their talents with their students.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Dr. Mullins?
Thank you, Ms. Belford. Just want to recognize two of our high schools tonight. One, Rockledge High School was just recently recognized by the Cambridge International organization. They're a Cambridge high school, and they have received the designation, a very rare designation, as a Cambridge Assessment International Education Site for Demonstration Status. It's best said by the representative from Cambridge, and he quotes, "We're excited that Rockledge High School is becoming one of the first demonstration centers in the United States and look forward to showcasing the exemplary work of the school leaders, educators, and students," said Mark Cavone, Regional Director for Cambridge International, North America. Rockledge has a long history of successfully implementing the Cambridge Pathway and resulting in strong results for students. So congratulations to the entire Rockledge High staff, faculty, for just really building a program of excellence for their students. I'll highlight again, the first demonstration center in the United States. So great job, Rockledge. And Miss Escobar is going to help load there's a neat little news clip on one of our high schools, Heritage High School, that has the only water conservation program in the district, but also I believe there's only 2 in the state. So it's best demonstrated by the news clip that was put out. It's about 2 minutes.
Program for high school students that focuses entirely on our water.
Students, they learn about drinking water, wastewater, and they're also contributing to studies that monitor sea level rise. News 6's James Sparvero shows us how these students are helping to forecast change.
The next generation studying global weather patterns and rising sea levels could be this group of bright young minds on the Indian River Lagoon.
They're very engaged and immediately are concerned.
These students go to Heritage High School in Palm Bay, and Kendall Duran is their teacher.
Enlighten them daily with the new research that's coming out.
This is Brevard County's Academy of Environmental Water and Technology. It's one of the school district's career and technical programs, which the students can get jobs right out of high school. Heritage says it has more than 100 students in grades 9 through 12 getting an education that includes forecasting change.
All different aspects of environmental stewardship, right, and climate change. And so one of the things that we do is we participate in the See a Difference Lagoon Day, a day in the life of the Indian River Lagoon.
Kendall's students are taking samples that not only give an indication of the lagoon's health, year-to-year data can also show how water levels might be changing.
It's compiled with other data that's taken throughout the county on that day, and they get to track it throughout the years.
In other Brevard schools, the district tells us it follows state education standards when it comes to teaching about climate and related issues in our classrooms. That includes an environmental science elective. Heritage High School tells us that some of the students in its program, they graduate and then they go on to study engineering. NASA's engineers right now, they tell us that on our coast, sea levels are expected to rise 3 feet in the next 60 or 70 years. In Brevard County, I'm James Sparvero, getting results, News 6.
So a huge applause to Ms. Duran, the teacher of the program, as well as got to do a shout out to City of Palm Bay Water Management, because they, City of Palm Bay Water Treatment Center is a partner with that program specifically, and it's just a great opportunity for our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. I just have a few quick ones I will throw out there. Sarah in Government and Community Relations has been putting together, as you all probably know, the Coffee with the Board with our Legacy Club members, and I had the opportunity to do the Coffee with the Board up in the north end of the county a couple of weeks ago, and great conversation, great input. They were really excited to hear the information that we were sharing with them. Mr. Reed joined me as well, and I feel like there's another staff member there. Is there somebody else there, Mr. Reed, that I'm forgetting? So anyway, great conversation, and I think they walked away knowing a lot more about our district and some of the great things that we're doing. So many thanks to Sarah for putting those together. We appreciate it. I also annually I have the opportunity to join a special day with the Titusville Student Advisory Council, and for you all that may be unfamiliar, the City of Titusville has a standing student advisory council. The students apply to be a part of the advisory council. They meet on a regular basis throughout the year. But once per year, they do a special event with GEO, who many of you probably know, and planners from the City of Titusville. And they have the Student Advisory Council students bring in peers from their schools, and all of the students come together in this conference room at the hospital, and they learn all about how to plan and what you have to consider when planning in the city. And so this year was a little bit unique in that they actually were presented different scenarios. Usually each group of students is given the same scenario and asked to develop based on that scenario. So 2 years ago, I think they were planning for a potential civic center but they have to know all of the setbacks. They have to know the requirements for greenery on the property. They have to know drainage requirements and number of parking spaces required and all of these aspects of planning. This year, each of the tables had a different one. So one of the groups was working on designing a town around a fault line. One was working on designing an island. A new island had developed in the Indian River Lagoon, apparently, and they were working on how to develop that. And so just really a great opportunity for those students to learn a little bit about what goes into planning our communities, and for them to also obviously work on teamwork and that sort of thing. And the students have such a great time, and it really is an awesome opportunity. So many thanks to the students who are serving on that Titusville Student Advisory Council, and also to the City of Titusville for providing that opportunity to them. And then yesterday, I had the opportunity to join in. Tansy Jones reached out to me and asked me if I would present at the Secretaries Conference. And so I had about it was supposed to be 30 minutes. It was more like probably about 45 minutes that we chatted just about some of the things that each and every one of us can do to really positively impact the culture at our schools and build community relationships and impact student achievement. So we had some great discussion, and Tansy and I think a team. Mike Alba's not here, is he? Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Theddy, but it's a team of secretaries who come together to plan the conference, right? And so Tansy was the one that reached out to me initially, but many thanks to all of them who took on that responsibility to put together, from what I heard, a great conference for all of their peers. And I believe that is all I have for recognition. So, Dr. Mullins, that will bring us to the adoption of the agenda.
Ms. Belford and members of the board, on tonight's agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, a presentation, 26 consent items, and 2 action items and 2 information items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. Item A7 on administrative staff recommendations received revisions. Item F16 and F17 on suspension of administrative employees were additions.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
There we go. There are 2 persons on this evening's agenda for the board to consider. Did I skip?
Nope, you're good. I was actually supposed to say, will you please let us know about our administrative staff recommendations? So
Okay.
you covered that faux pas well, thank you. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. Deskovich. Any discussion? Please vote.
I'm trying with my left hand, but I stopped having to use this as mine.
And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Tonight, we have the opportunity to recognize and congratulate 2 outstanding principals, educators, who, on their upcoming retirements at the end of June. 2 educators who combined have dedicated over 75 years to public education. First, I want to say thank you to Ms. Norma Hostetler, principal of Lockmar Elementary, for everything you've done for our kids and the Lockmar community. Ms. Hostetler has been an educator in Brevard for 45 years.
Wow.
She began as a teacher at Roy Allen Elementary, moved to Lockmar when it opened, I believe as a teacher, and then moved into the ranks of administration, has been serving as the principal at Lockmar for many years. Congratulations, Ms. Hostetler. Thank you for your selfless dedication to the students of South Brevard, and wish you all the best in your upcoming retirement. You get the microphone. That's the least we can do for you.
Well, I just want to thank you, Dr. Mullins, and school board members for allowing me to be a Brevard Public School employee for 45 years. I didn't even realize 45 years had passed until I looked at a little certificate I got last fall, and I'm like, I see it in print. I don't believe it. It certainly went quick, and I thank you for the opportunity for me to be able to be at Lockmar. I went there in 1982 when the school opened, and served in several capacities, becoming the principal there in 1999. Both of my children went there. I think it's a great school. I even had a custodian tell me yesterday she got a $50 discount on her car repair when the guy found out that she worked at Lockmar, because he went there, his children and other family members, and he said, that's the least I can do to support Lockmar. So thanks again for the opportunity.
And next, we want to congratulate and recognize Miss Ellie Lee, principal of Audubon Elementary. Miss Lee, thank you also for your selfless dedication to the students of Brevard, for your 28 years of service to our students, our community, as principal of Audubon most recently, but also formerly the principal of Quest Elementary. And I'm not sure where your journey was before that, but thank you.
Thank you very much, board members and Dr. Mullins, for giving me the opportunity to serve Brevard Public Schools as a teacher at Apollo Elementary and an academic specialist at Enterprise Elementary. And then I worked my way down the district and to the central area to Quest as the AP and principal, and then out to Audubon as the principal. So I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a great career. Great people that I've worked with. I've formed many great relationships with my colleagues and with the people that I've worked with, and I couldn't be more happy to say that, you know, now I'm moving on, time to give it to the new generation so they can take the lead in this. And I wish everyone in Brevard County the best of luck and best wishes for success. I'm going to be hearing great things about Brevard County. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about tonight's presentation?
Tonight we have the privilege of showcasing Central Middle School's Home Base program. With us this evening is Mr. Todd Shear, principal of Central Middle School, to introduce the presentation and the staff he has with him tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, school board members, Dr. Mullins. I did bring along two people tonight that I would like to introduce. One is my home-based teacher at Central Middle School currently, and in the future, Miss Diana Pittenger. And also district resource teacher with autism programs is Mr. Dietrich Brown. And Dietrich, thank you. This isn't going to be a presentation about ASD, but I do want one slide. ASD is a neurological-based disability, and it has an uneven pattern of development. It's a brain-based disability. Students are born with this ASD. The one key that I want to mention is they can be delayed in their weaknesses 1/3 to 2/3 of their chronological age. What that means, if you're a 12-year-old, you may act like an 8 or even a 4-year-old. Often individuals with extreme strengths and a special interest and a debilitating weaknesses in social communication, interaction, and sensory regulation. I want to tell you how this started for myself. Back in 2017, I was the principal at Southwest Middle School, and in January, on a Friday during lunchtime, we serve about 300 students. And all of a sudden, there was this scream in the entrance of the cafeteria, and I was alarmed, as a lot of people had no idea what was happening. Went back there and tried to talk with the student who was sitting on the floor screaming. And it was a brand new student. brand new student, had started that morning at Southwest. Had no idea. Now, I can tell you, and you're aware of middle school students. Everybody who goes to middle school, their first day, their first week, their first month, the anxiety of starting in middle school is something we all have to come to grips with. For students with ASD, you can take that 10 times, the anxiety. So this student had come into the cafeteria at Southwest for the first time, 300 plus students, barely made it in the door, and just basically a meltdown. That actually led to a lot of questions for me. This was not the first of many rodeos at Southwest. There's a lot of great programs at Southwest, but we take our mission very seriously. All staff, principals, administrators, our mission to serve every student with excellence. And coming to find out about this student in ASD was a journey that I needed to spend some time on. I assembled an outstanding team. I cannot say Dietrich Brown how much he has meant. I did not know Dietrich before this week. Lisa McBee, our support specialist, Deanna Irwin, Dale Daly became an integral part of this. The core teachers, 4 core teachers who were recruited. The behavior analyst, speech and language. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Dawn O'Brien and Dr. Patricia Fontan, because at the time I was proposing something that, we want to do something different here. And the support we had was incredible. Unfortunately, in our business, we are very reactionary. We put out fires. And that is about as opposite for a student with ASD. It's just not what you want to be. You want to be in front. You want to front load for a student with ASD. So that's not what we wanted to be, was reactionary. A reactive model, administrators, we provide structures with little regard for the needs of teachers supporting students with ASD. Administration, general education, exceptional education, students with ASD. We have supports, but are they really reaching to the student that we need to? Parent concerns. I know over the years, principals, administrators, district staff, my child with ASD will not make it in middle school. There's no way. They're not going to be able to handle it. The switching of classes, bullying, my child's not going to have the supports that they need. I understand those concerns. I will tell you, when I met with Dietrich Brown, and we started talking about students with ASD, and I received quite an education in terms of numbers, and we talked about 2 or 3 students that I had on campus at that time. Todd, here's the rest of the story. You have 3 students in 6th grade currently who are coming to Southwest next year who are severe autism. So, wow, wait a minute. I've got to rethink how we're going to approach this, because I can't have them come the first day of school, the first week of school, and things fall apart. That's not what we're about. We need to look more like this, not a firefighter, but how are we going to nurture these students? And I want to make sure we nurture all students, but students with ASD, we have to understand their needs if we're going to help them. When Dietrich and I met, we started talking about what do we need to do differently? And my question to him, let's start with what can be our ideal situation. Let's start at the top. The one thing that was a little disturbing to come to find out, Dietrich, I will get a team together at the school, and we want to go visit a model program, a model that we can see somewhere. I want to see another middle school and how they're addressing students with ASD. All right, I'll find out for you. The answer to that, he came back a couple of days later, there wasn't one. He looked around the state, he talked with UCF, And there just was not a model or program addressing students with ASD around the state that we could go look at. That was a little scary. What do we need to consider? A model considers the learning environment of a middle school student. Let me rehash. A student will see 7 teachers a day, 45-minute periods, class changes, schedule changes, multiple assignments. It's chaotic. It's chaotic as it is. Can you imagine a student with ASD? I like movies. I'm a big movie person, but I will tell you, and I know it's Hollywood, but what I envisioned in early on conversation was that movie Rain Man. And I had to think about Rain Man, and in that movie, Tom Cruise had to learn very quickly about his brother and what his strengths were, what his weaknesses, and his schedule. Never forgot. And that's how I tried to start thinking about how are we going to help students with ASD adjust to middle school, because it can just be overwhelming. It is critical. This was a critical piece I want to mention tonight. 3 days of training. Teachers bought into this. And not only teachers that were going to work with the students in the home-based program, but the core academic teachers. 3 days of training. First one, understanding students with ASD. Different thinking, different communication, interacting classroom supports. The second day, addressing social understanding and emotional regulation, perspective, social expectations, unwritten rules. And the third one is unpacking individual supports, learning what students' strengths, talents, and interests, individual education plans. When you learn the strengths and weaknesses, you have to use those to your advantage to have that student succeed through 1 day. Student with ASD, strengths and talents. Social communication is very challenging. Emotional regulation. I'll talk about that in 1 minute. Organizing and planning can be a difficult challenge. Creating positive relations, most students, first perspective, they stay away. They stay away, which you know what will happen down the road. Isolation, depression. Individualized supports for students. Here are the key supports for our home base program. Same person, same place, same time. We have 1 teacher, 1 IA. At Southwest and at Central currently, the program had the model of home base. We had anywhere from 7 to 12 students that we addressed through the home base program. Direct instruction in social understanding and emotional regulation, how to help them calm down when that anxiety becomes too much. We provided the academic support. Obviously, I have some students that are 7th grade, some that are 8th grade. So the teacher and the IA work hand in hand together. 1 week the teacher goes with the 7th graders and the IA goes with the 8th graders. They switch the following week. At any time in that classroom during the day, if the student starts to become overwhelmed, show high anxiety, starts to have a meltdown, that teacher is able then to take that student back to home base and go through a calming down period so that hopefully with whether it's 5 minutes, 15, 20, could be an hour, we want to get them back on the regular program for the rest of the day. Regroup, reset, rejoin. But the students learn that the home base is a safe place. They have a safe person that they have made contact with throughout the day. We trained ESE teachers, core teachers. We have a sensory room. A sensory room has tactile items to help the students calm down. Just as an example, a heavyweight blanket. To watch a student put a heavyweight blanket on themselves and just go from a level 10 anxiety down to about a 4 or a 3 within a few minutes, it's amazing. It's amazing. The home-based classroom, it is a location for social, personal, and learning strategies. We are front-loading. We want to be out in front, not be reactive. Accessible time to support students experiencing overwhelm. That happens a lot. It happens a lot to regular middle school kids. just 10 times more with students with ASD. Continuum of support for class changes, lunch, fire drills, other less structured or challenging situations. When we started our first year, we had 8 students. We did not even attempt to go to the cafeteria the first couple of weeks of school. We didn't even do it. Our goal, hey, if we can get a few students down to the cafeteria by the end of the first 9 weeks, a victory. I will tell you, by the end of the year, we had all of our students in the cafeteria, socializing with other students. It works. It works. You have to slow down. You have to go at a pace that they are comfortable with. Social personal class instruction at the home base, addressing the social communication. You know, in the movie Rain Man, if you think back, if you saw that movie, the social communication, the personal interactions, it can be a challenge. Check in. We ask them, where are you today? We ask them throughout the whole day because the teacher and the IA are there with them. We set up an emotional scale for them. Direct instruction in the emotional regulation, zones of regulation. We have a 5-point rating, which I'll show you in a second. We try to teach them and have them help us understand where they are during different times of the day. And for each student, it can be a different emotion, a different zone at any given time. The teacher could start an activity that it just, no way, can't handle it. I will tell you the interactions that go on between the teacher and Diana Penninger, for instance, they preload. They had, for an example, yesterday, the team had an activity in the gymnasium. They had a packet of materials. They rotated around stations. That's going to be a lot for a student with ASD. Ms. Penninger took the packet and broke it down into sections where she gave suggestions. She went over it ahead of time with the students. That's what we mean by front-loading. Is it extra work? Absolutely. That's great collaboration between the classroom core teacher and Ms. Penninger, who's there as the home-based teacher. That's what is needed to get the student to a level of success. Here are our 5-point scales. Avoidance. And that happens. I mean, think about this. Every middle school student, we live in the world of avoidance. We try to go up to thrive. But I will tell you, talking to parents of students with ASD, their world for years is in that avoidance and tolerate. They dream of getting up to manage, engage, and thrive. The presentation tonight, I could spend a lot of time talking to you the success that we've had at Southwest. We've begun this year at Central, and it is working. Relationships, we all know how important the relationships are. But when a student with ASD knows who that one person throughout the day, the instructional assistant and the teacher, they know their special interests, they are able to connect the curriculum somehow to that special interest of the student, that gets them engaged. Play to the strengths, play to the talents and the interests. Find a novelty, humor, and fun in everyday instruction and interaction. Home-based outcomes, increased inclusion and interaction with peers. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Very difficult and challenging in middle school. Improved attitudes of staff, students, and parents or caregivers. The teachers that have engaged in being part of the home-based program, have gone through the training. I can't tell you how thrilled they are to be making a difference every day with students with ASD. It's amazing. Were they nervous at the beginning? Absolutely. Did I have to challenge them to go outside of their box? Absolutely. And every one of them has lived up to it. Students moving up the 5-point scale thrive over the course of the year. You've got to say, here's where we are we going to be at the end of the year? I know we can do better. And this is a big one. Discipline is handled in home base. The reality of the situation, students in some schools that throughout the state, throughout the country, they're in regular classrooms, they don't have the supports, They start acting up, they start having anxiety. If the teacher during that lesson, if they don't have anybody else, they're off to the dean's office, and then it's more of a discipline issue. So home base allows us to take care of meltdowns and anxieties all in home base, calm them down, and re-engage them in the curriculum. We gave you a copy earlier this year. There was a great article that came out in BPS News on the ASD program at Southwest. If you didn't get a chance, it's a great article. I think it really brings to light the whole program or the whole model. I became principal at Central Middle School in 1819. I was able in my second year this year to start the home base there. Here at Central, we have 9 students currently in the program. I will tell you, last year I had some 8th graders that I every day, man, I wish I had home base. And I made sure going into this year, we put that model in there. There are 2 more middle schools currently, Jackson and Hoover, that are using some variations of this home base model, and I believe they're having some success. It may be a little tougher in smaller schools. You all are invited at any time. I'm sure Mr. Shaw at Southwest would love to have you visit. You're certainly welcome at Central Middle School to come visit home base and see for yourself. But I hope this enlightened you a little bit to our unique program I feel we have at Central right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing the information. So I'm going to put you on the spot with one question.
Okay.
Just because I have lots of conversations with different individuals throughout our district on some of the challenges that we see in schools, and certainly with some of our special needs students, the challenges that you referenced as far as meltdowns and outbursts and those sorts of things, we hear a lot about as well. And oftentimes I will say, hey, check out this program at this school or this program at that school. And they're intrigued, but they say to me, well, is the district paying for that at that school? So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit to say, is this something that you have managed to do within your allotted funds? Both at 2 schools now, you've managed to do that. So have you worked out a way with your allotted funds to do that?
I'm going to give you an honest answer. Mm-hmm. As a principal, when we started down this path in the spring, when looking at this model and what can we do, I did go and ask the district, and I am very thankful that we had a plan. We had a very good plan. I had a district resource teacher that 100% was on board and trying to do something to start meeting the needs of a group of students. And I can't thank, at the time, Dr. Boberski and Dr. Fontan for supporting that with a unit in IA. And the promise I had after that is after year 1, I will find a way after year 1, because if it does work, we're going to want to continue it. I'll find a way. So right now, first year at Central, it was in my PAR. I greatly appreciated that. It makes a difference. I think the results are there, the data. Right now, I think there's some discussion. I know there's been some visits by district staff to take a look at the home-based program at Southwest and Central. I think there's some areas there that may want to take a look towards our students with EBD possibilities. But I hope down the road, if the unit is there, certainly it helps the school. It's needed.
Very good. Thank you very much. And Ms. Moore, I'm going to ask you, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm guessing that you probably do. We had talked, as we have been for the past several years, looking at opportunities for savings to make more dollars available for salary. And one of the things that we did last year in order to be able to come up with additional dollars for salary, and Ms. Klein and Dr. Sullivan, you guys can probably weigh in too, but one of the things that we did was we eliminated some reserve positions. Are those reserve positions that we have previously eliminated, are those the types of positions that are utilized for special circumstances like this, where we're going to do a short-term funding on a position until the school can take over? And so, yes, Chris Moore's shaking her head yes, as are Jane Klein and Dr. Sullivan. So I want to make sure that we, as we discuss how we address the concerns that we're hearing from our schools, that we really wrap our head around how everything plays together for us to be able to address it. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing. It looks like a phenomenal program, and I'm going to try to come by and see you. Mr. Susan, did you want to say something? No? Any other board members?
I just have a quick question. Mr. Brown, were you the one that Dr. Mullins and I were speaking with at, okay. I thought you were, but you didn't look the same as you did. Oh, is that what it is? Well, thank you. Thank you all very, very much. I actually met a gentleman 2 days ago who was very distraught about his autistic grandson who is homeschooled right now, and they want to put him in school, and he said, what do you have, like, how are you gonna? And so I'm gonna actually copy this and put it in the mail to him tomorrow. So thanks so much.
Mr. Susan, you wanted to comment?
I just wanted to say, Mr. Scheer, thanks for your enthusiasm. I was hired by Mr. Scheer at Space Coast, and the day that I was hired, he literally just gave me a stack of stuff and stayed on me the whole time, made me the teacher that I was, but he also makes all the people at his school the same, and his enthusiasm hasn't changed in the many years that I've known him. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Brown. Many of my students, you pushed them at O'Galley, and they really didn't like you, I'm not going to lie to you, because you made them better. And I now know, because they're in the community working, that it was successful in some of those endeavors. So thank you for everything that you guys give. You've made a difference. Thank you.
Any other board members wish to comment at this time? Okay. All right, then. Yes, thank you. All right, then we are now at public comments. School board policy limits our public comment time to 30 minutes for the portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to participate and provide public comment. We only have 4 speakers this evening, so each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of your time. When your time is over, you'll be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected at all times, and your statement should be directed to the board chair. The chair may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when time is up, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Should an individual not observe proper etiquette, the chairman may request the individual leave the meeting. Let's all encourage an environment appropriate for our children who may be present or are watching from home. I'm just going to go ahead and call our first 4 speakers, since there's only 4 of them. We have Nicolette Sevier, Anthony Colucci, Kyle Savage, and Kathy West. As you all make your way up, before speaking, please state your name, the organization you represent, if any, and identify the topic that you will be discussing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
School board. My name is Nicolette Sevier. I work for the U.S. Census Bureau. First, I wanted to thank the superintendent and Matt Reed for all of the help that they have extended throughout this year, helping us promote the census in the schools. So I'm basically here to remind everyone that the census is coming around the corner. We're all going to receive an invitation this week inviting us to complete the census online. So as many may know, the data that the census yields determines how many seats the state of Florida secures in Congress. So it gives us power and representation in Congress. In addition, it determines how many or where the $675 billion are allocated within our communities, our states, and our counties. School programs such as VPK, luncheon programs, Title I, ESOL are all funded by federal funding. So we're encouraging you all to help us promote the census. Schools are predominantly or our biggest supporter of promoting the census. So the Bureau has rolled out the statistics in the school, which is our SIS program, which was launched last week and will roll all the way to June of 2020. Schools throughout the nation are holding events, are including statistics in the schools and their programs. They're posting announcements on their marquees, on social media. They're hosting rallies. So basically, I'm just here to thank you again, the Brevard Public School, for coming and supporting the census, and to remind everybody else to fill out their census when it comes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Mr. Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. Tonight, I am honored and humbled to inform you that the membership has reelected me to this position for 3 more years. The level of support I have for members can be seen by the fact that I was unopposed in my election. I'm proud of our union's accomplishments since I became a release officer. For starters, we've increased our membership by over 700 members. The past 2 years, we've been able to secure respectable raises, a great deal of beneficial contract language, won an arbitration, won a special magistrate hearing, and gained the support of the community in our plight for fair pay. I've been part of this district much longer than most of you, and will most likely be here after you're gone. I say that because I think it's important for all of you to realize your decisions will impact me and other teachers for years to come after you've gone on to other things. Over the next 3 years, I sure hope that this board chooses to have a productive relationship with the 5,000 teachers we represent. You can't love teachers but hate the teachers union. They are the union, and I am their elected representative. Since being a release officer, most of you on this board have tried to ignore my input until you no longer could. When I told you that our previous HR department was beyond difficult and incompetent, no changes happened until this union won 3 arbitrations in a row, and BFT was forced to call impasse 2 years in a row. When I repeatedly told you a certain principal was being awful to her teachers, no changes happened until the community rallied and called for her resignation. When I told you you could afford better raises last year, and even a neutral party agreed with that assessment, no changes happened until we rallied week after week after week. When I told you your previous CFO was not transparent with the district funding, no changes happened until the entire community saw it with their own eyes. Guess what? I would really prefer not to be the guy who tells you I told you so. I would like to have this district avoid problems, but that change needs to happen with you. You need to be transparent with what's going on in this district and willing to accept that your beliefs, information are not always accurate. We need to address problems quickly, not put them on the back burner. We need to lobby our politicians with one voice and one message, not many. And most importantly, we must craft and implement solutions together. That way, if they don't work out, there's no finger pointing, but rather collective responsibility that allows us to get back up, regroup, and try again. I do believe that we have a really good school district, but I also believe that it can clearly and unquestionably be the best school district in the state if we commit to working together. I look forward to the board workshop, and hopefully that will be a path to collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Mr. Savage.
Thank you. So I just want to first of all start out by taking time to thank my school. Obviously, from what Ms. McDougall read, Capeview Elementary is a wonderful place to be at. And I would never be here right now if it wasn't for my principal. If it wasn't for my principal who saw somebody with a biology degree, an Army veteran, not one day in the classroom, I was like, you know what, he's gonna make a good teacher. And for all those years, and even this year when I make a mistake, she's there to pick me up and say, this is how you do it better. And some of the wonderful leadership in the back, Ms. Klein and Dr. Mello, so thank you. I would be lying to you if I didn't say this last year has been a complete whirlwind. Since becoming the treasurer of the Brevard Federation of Teachers, I've learned a ton of information. And it has been an honor to work on behalf of my fellow teachers in Brevard. Additionally, it has been an honor to work with Dr. Mullins, the board, and members of the district's senior staff to improve working conditions of our teachers and the learning environments of our students. I'm excited to be leaving the classroom this summer to serve the members of BFT full-time as a release officer. However, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna miss the classroom. Being inside those 4 walls has been the best thing I've ever done, and I've had some pretty cool experiences in life. Being a 5th grade math teacher is just amazing. I'm really gonna miss my students. My rally cry and focus going forward into my new endeavor with BFT is going to be urgency. While I truly respect every stakeholder I've worked with over the last year in this room and people not in this room, I have left many meetings or conversations frustrated. Not frustrated with an individual person, but frustrated with the process and pace it takes to get anything done. Guess what? With all my conversations I had with people in this room, we agree on 90% of the problems facing the Brevard Public Schools. Let's work together on those. BFT looks forward to working with you on many different issues that are facing us in Brevard, whether it can be how we improve our new teacher experience with mentor teachers, whether it's Vanessa working with the district on retention and recruitment, whether it's making sure all students have equitable discipline. It's not equitable right now. That needs to change. Our paid maternity leave for our employees. Many of these issues we can work together and make a difference. It will change teacher or students' lives, just some of those 4 issues I listed right there. Let me explain to you the reason I'm bringing urgency to this wonderful opportunity. I stand in front of you as a student who never completed the 9th grade. I know what happens to a student who loses faith in school, who doesn't have a strong family structure at home, who doesn't have anything to look forward to. You're looking at that student. If it wasn't for one person changing my life, I would still be a high school dropout. I know the urgency of making a difference in a student's life. Furthermore, everything I know about leadership comes from 2 places, the United States Army and General Mattis. And if you don't know who General Mattis is, my time's really short. He's probably one of the greatest leaders in America and our generation. I was honored to work with him for 12 months, and he taught me 3 things, and then I will stop, Miss Belford. He taught me always lead from the front, always be humble, and always respect everybody you work for. BFT and myself are ready, and we would really like to work with you guys to lead forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Ms.
Savage. We
Belford.
appreciate you. Ms. West? Ms. West? Mm-hmm.
Good evening. How you guys doing today? My name is Kathy West. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm here on behalf of the subs. We're still waiting on our pay increase. We need to make sure that we're paying our employees a competitive wage. We can't, like I said, we can't pay our bills with box tops. We can't pay our bills with poppy tabs. You're stunning my growth. Waiting for a raise. Also, I wanted to mention, I read this article online, and I don't think we want any of this to happen to any of our people. People are committing suicide because they can't make enough money. I don't think we want that to happen to any of our people. That concludes my announcement.
Thank you, Ms. West, and thank you for joining us this evening. All right, that moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Mullins.
There are 26 agenda items under this category.
Does any board member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda?
I think we might need to pull F18 and F19.
They're driving. I checked with Dr. Mullins. They're driving.
I already
To
reviewed
Las
both of them,
Vegas?
and they're fine. F18, well, it's certainly the board's prerogative to pull those if you'd like. If it's in reference to the earlier position that out-of-state airfare trips are canceled, the Bayside High School Naval JROTC is traveling by chartered bus, and the Heritage High School Automotive Program is not traveling until next school year.
Okay, then no, I don't need to pull anything as well.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to accept the consent items as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Duskovich. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Okay. Ms. Escobar is canceling that vote and redoing it because there was a technical glitch of some sort.
Oh, that worked for me.
Oh, I had that.
It worked for 4 of us, but something happened wonky. All right, please vote.
Who was the problem?
I don't know.
Down on your end.
It was you, Mr. Susan. Why am I not shocked?
And the motion passes 5-0. All right, we'll move on to the action agenda, Dr. Mullins.
Ms. Belford and members of the board, there are 2 items under this category. Item G36, Department School Initiated Agreements.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Item G37 is on procurement solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Duskovich, seconded by Mr. Susan. Is there any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. We're now at the information portion of our agenda. There will be no action on these items this evening, but may be brought back at a later time. Does anyone want to discuss anything on the information agenda?
Yeah, we might have more issues with travel, I don't know. With the CTE national competitions. I'm sure staff will.
Dr. Sullivan says we're fine.
Okay.
Yep. Ms. Klein says we're fine, so.
Dr. Sullivan is the CT, well, not the
Well,
CT
yeah,
one, so
Dr.
she says
Sullivan
we'll manage
already
it.
said
We'll manage it.
she was giving us 2 thumbs up.
She's
Move
on it.
along, she says.
She's on
Move
it.
along.
You said you volunteered to drive them.
She's going to drive
Yeah,
them
she's
to
gonna
all the
drive them all the way
national
there.
competitions.
Drive them. There you go.
In a bus.
All right, with no questions on the information agenda, does any board member have anything further to report?
Things, you go first.
I don't have a report, but I forgot in the acknowledgements, you mentioned Ms. McDougall, Barbara Wilcox, and the. Yeah, I forgot to mention it was on my list, and I just didn't mention. So she had their group had another big milestone this week. Congressman Posey read a whole it was kind of like a proclamation on the United States House floor, called the group out and the school by name, and even Miss Wilcox by name. And she found that out on Friday at our parent leadership team meeting, and I was sitting next to her, and I mean, she was very emotional, which made me very emotional. I was like, your name is being read on the House floor today for bringing kindness to the entire United States and Washington, D.C. That's a really big deal. Yeah. She's a TK1 teacher, you know, in her little school, in our little community, and she's impacting our entire nation. And I think that's amazing.
She deserves an applause.
Yeah, she does.
Thank you, Ms. Duskovich, for reminding us all about that. Oftentimes we get, we come across those things throughout the week, and sometimes we forget to mention them once we get up here. So I appreciate that. Mr. Suze, Ms. Campbell.
So I was able to meet a few weeks ago with the South Area NAACP, and I just wanted to share some things that came out of that meeting. Their main driver of the main reason why they want to meet with me is because they've taken a look at our student data with our reading levels and the very sad data that 64, 65%, depending on the year, the last few years, of our African American students in grades 3 through 10 are reading below grade level. And I know that we've seen that data. I know that those are numbers that Dr. Mullins and Dr. Sullivan and Jane Klein, that cause them to lose sleep at night. And so they weren't presenting anything new to me, but I was able to share with them some of the things that that the staff is already working on. I know the strategic plan includes several items that relate to all our subgroups, that we don't want to just see success on the average, but that every subgroup, our African American, Hispanic, English language learners, our ESE students, our free and reduced lunch students, that every subgroup has growth and success. And so I promised them to keep that in front of us. We talked about, I just think that we are on the right track with some things. Our Thrive by 5, that we can't wait till they get to us in kindergarten to start teaching them. If we can get books in the hands of parents and students so that they can start that path to literacy earlier on. I shared with them our changes in our gifted policy that kind of removes the kind of makes our gifted screening colorblind, that we're going to screen all students. We have already started this year to doing that. Dr. Sullivan's aggressive push to Algebra 1 in middle school for all students, that we're eliminating, we're making that a more colorblind process as well. But I also came out that I just want you to know they are with us. They're wanting to help us, and they have already instituted at University Park Elementary a mentorship program, and members of the NAACP come in and they've trained them to come and work with our students at University Park. I've asked them to be open to expand that, and definitely want to see increased volunteers throughout our county, and even if it's just coming in and being an ear for students to read to. But when I hear those numbers, my gut reaction is, oh, give me 25 students and let me go help myself. But that's, and I definitely think we have done that in the past as a board, and we can continue to do that on an individual basis. But I also realize it's not our job as a board to come up with the plan, because our staff is already doing that. But what is our job as a board is to make sure that our staff has the resources they need to take care of this problem, because it's a problem. And we as a board have that responsibility. So as we move forward in the decisions that we're going to be making, we need to remember that that's our role. We need to make sure they have what they need, because 65% of our African American students not being able to read on grade level is a problem. And we can support the people who are supporting those students. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Good point.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. And Mr. Susan.
So one of the things that we had was the innovation games, and it went off really well. And I want to tell you, Ms. Lukton had run around to all those programs for months prior, putting together as many of the drones and whatever she could just to get them to where they needed to be. For instance, Johnson, she came in there, and they're still 3D printing with the old drones. They had communication errors. She worked with them, right? But what we're seeing is that there was a cost for busing this year, which we couldn't afford to cover from a district perspective, along with multiple programs that, because of the busing cost and the infrastructure for the drones and the sea perches and all that stuff, we had schools that couldn't compete. So one of the things that I noticed as we had a couple of meetings right before that was that there was a need to have a group of people come together to support those innovation game programs, along with maybe some other STEM stuff in our community. So what I did was I reached out to DRS, Angel Investments, Naval Research, FPL, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and the Astronaut Memorial Foundation, and they said that they'd like to get together and see what the district needs, and then support those programs through that. Not take away from what they're already giving, but see if there's a way that they can utilize some of their subcontractors and other individuals to not only help with, I know I always lose to the animals, right? To not only help with the revenue to create these programs, but then also the mentorships and the volunteers that are taken. I mean, they were literally putting together the pools the night before, and they were blowing over at the Solar Energy Center, and they were just trying to fill them. And they're bringing in, I mean, there's just so much that's needed there. We've created an amazing program, and in order to grow and support it, I think we need to bring in some of those businesses. So they've all agreed to sort of start coming together, and it would be run kind of through the Economic Development Council, which we're already starting something there, and then also pull together the parents from each one of those organizations and the schools to say, hey, here's what we have. We have a heat map. We're going to need these things. And then they come together and they say we'd support them. So I just wanted to kind of give you the heads up that, you know, it's not me running it, it's just putting all those people together and seeing what they're doing. That's all. Just to give you a heads up. Because in order to grow that program, we need to give them the financial support and the mentor support that they need. Any questions on that one? Okay, there's drones now for $40 for a controller and a drone. So you can retrofit an entire school for $160. The Sea Perch program that's inside the, from the Office of Naval Intelligence, you can get now for like under $150. I mean, we're at a point where we can supply these programs, and for under $1,000, you can move a lot of these programs to the innovation game. So it's not like we're talking about raising $100,000. It's only $10,000, $20,000 to support these programs. So that's good. Any questions on that? All right.
I would just say, want to make sure we're working with our PI coordinators on that, because a lot of those are our PI partners, and coordinate that with
Sure.
Ms. Foley.
Yep. So the next thing is that I wanted to, one of the things that keeps me up at night is our insurance that's coming up, and I wanted to take a second. I was looking at the timeline, and I've said it before, and I just kind of wanted to throw some stuff on your guys' radar. If we take if we go back from the time that we have open enrollment, which is October, early November, and we go back 60 days to building the enrollment, to print the educate wellness, to print the pamphlets that they get, the packets, the paperwork, in order to educate our wellness coordinators to do all that takes at least 60 days at the minimum. If you take the 60 days it takes prior to that to create it inside of the networks, to our online, programs that have to be put into place, all of the programs that have to be implemented with the different networks and everything else, that takes another 60 days. If somehow we were able to negotiate with the contract through the union of whatever it was that we chose, it basically gives us 45 days from now until the time that we would have to go negotiate with them, which would be the end of April, to try to come together with a plan, to listen to what we have offered to us, to go back and talk about a plan and then move forward with something. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we're getting close to, time constraints, which I think everybody is. And then I wanted to throw a couple of ideas that we've mentioned before out. One of the issues that we have is education. One of the problems that we have is that at each one of the schools, we have a wellness coordinator, and they volunteer their time so that they can do work. But I think that we can utilize them more by giving them a stipend. And let me explain. We get $80,000 for wellness dollars from Cigna, right? That goes to do different stuff. But that can fund part of the stipends. But where I really started doing some analytics was on the flexible spending account. If you have 2 people at each school that utilize the maximum amount for both flexible spending and for the childcare, just 2, that would be close to $1,000 in savings for the flexible spending account that we could utilize for the stipends. Meaning that if we drive flexible spending account savings by having people utilize their dollars for childcare and the right things, we can save enough money to be able to provide stipends so that those people would be educating and want to educate the people that are inside their groups. We went to an open enrollment years ago, and when we went to an open enrollment, there was a lot of distrust because of the organization that was coming in. They felt like they were being sold. So there's nobody that can sell like our people that they trust, right? So for them to understand what their needs are and to answer questions, our wellness coordinators are already doing it, and there's an option to be able to pay them to continue. That's all. Just an idea, because in order to make the change that we need, we have to educate our people on each one of the things that we're doing. So if we're going to create a preferred network, they need to be educated. It just can't be a group that comes in here on a weekend or one of those things. They have to be site-based education if we're going to do those different things. So the other thing that I wanted to say, I met with Osceola County's risk manager just to see what they were doing over there. They've gone into doing a couple of new things that I would like to talk to you guys about, which is one of them is that instead of creating a preferred network, narrow network, they've actually taken and created programs where people buy into them financially. So there's a program where you can go direct to MRIs, outpatient surgeries, and stuff like that. So say there's 5 places in the county that provide MRIs and outpatient surgeries for under $500. They've made it to where they don't have to pay copays to go to that. So that's driven all of the people that are a part of that program to go there without having to create a disruption or an education. If you want a free copay, you go to those. Same thing with pharmacy. And it can ride along with our contracts and not hurt what we have currently. So there's just a lot of other options that I asked Dr. Mullins, and he's looking into. But I think we need to keep our scope open and take a look at some of those specifically to the pharmacy, MRIs, and going direct to like our Health First, Parish Medical, and Stewart. I know we're moving to ask Cigna to do it, but if you bring them in and you ask them, hey, what can you provide? You get some different options that we're not getting through the current provider that we have. That's all. So just kind of, I'll send a kind of an overview that goes through all of it to each one of you, but I wanted to throw it on your radar that our time is getting tight. There's some options that we can do to save, and I think that we should look at them. That's all. And if you guys had any questions, I was going to be there.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Ms. Belford, may I? Of course. The stipends and you said that there was mistrust and we used to have others come in. Was that AFLAC or who came in?
It wasn't mistrust, but there was a couple of people that said it was AFLAC.
Okay.
Listen, the game that everybody plays is that they will bring in their enrollers, they will bring in AFLAC, they'll bring in an enrolling company, and what ends up...
Thank you.
Thank you. What ends up happening is they don't, they're not our people. So they're not being, and
So
we
that
already have...
Our employees felt like they were being sold. So you're recommending that we have 2 of our own employees at each location?
We already have them there.
They're already there.
They're already answering questions. They're already doing the work.
If we want to, and you want to give them a stipend
Just
to
an
help-
idea.
Okay. Does that have to go through BFT to get, so we'd
Any
have to?
stipends has
yeah.
to go through them.
So we'd have to,
Mr. Colucci is saying no.
Some of them are.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, I understand, I mean...
Many of them are the school secretary.
Many of them are, but they're already doing this,
Mhm.
and it's a burden already on them. And I think literally, if you look at the flexible spending accounts that we would save, and then on top of that, there's your enroller, there's your
are they
trusted person.
trained now? They're doing it, but are they doing it and they don't know much? Or do we
No,
spend the
they're-
time training them? You think they're very knowledgeable?
They're very knowledgeable, and depending on the school, like Kennedy, that woman's crazy. She puts in all of their flyers, everything.
She's
and
out there
on it.
watching right now and she just
No, she
heard you call
appreciates
her
me
crazy.
saying crazy.
I just,
talk to
you
her
might
all
want
the
to
time
reword
about it.
that.
But there are, I
Uh,
think that you would see an improvement in the level of service just based upon the fact that they have an opportunity to
By giving them
be
a stipend.
appreciated. Yep.
Okay. And are
Just
they
an idea.
currently, I'm not against it, I want to understand
Sure.
exactly what you're suggesting. So are they currently teaching about FSAs, about flexible spending
Some of them
accounts, I
are,
should
some of
say,
them
otherwise
aren't.
you feel like you're
It's
taking a
not the
test.
fidelity. We've seen a drop in the overall amount of individuals that are going towards the flexible spending. We saw an increase after we added the extra couple of months on the flexible spending and did the open enrollment where we used the enrollers. There was a significant increase during that year, and we would see that again.
The past enrollers, you're talking about AFLAC again?
They did a great job. It's just
Okay.
some people, because of the way it was, but we saw significant increases in flexible spending accounts.
Okay.
And that's all.
Maybe Mark, not this Mark, Langdorf, couldn't think of his last name. Maybe he can give us some suggestions on how we can
Mhm.
increase, because if the FSAs, that's a win-win for us
It
and
is.
for our employees. If there's a way for us to expand that, that sounds like and I don't know if it's stipends or maybe Mr. Langdorf has
Sure.
some other suggestions or ideas. I'd like to hear about that if we can.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's it.
And just as a circle back on that, Dr. Mullins, because I keep forgetting to mention it to you, I think we had talked about coming back together in April sometime, joint SIAC board. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that to you, so it's still on your radar as well.
Yep, it's on it's on my list to talk to you about this week.
Awesome, thank you. All right, there being no further, anyone else have comments? Oh, Dr. Mullins, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
all right.
cut you off down there.
Not a problem. Just real quick, I want to remind the board that at our next board meeting, I will be making a presentation in response to the board's request that look at options for compensation moving forward for the district. I've engaged in many community conversations around the district, the work we've done, as well as done some research and some suggestions that have been made relative to different ways of doing the work in the district. So I'll be bringing a report to the board at the next board meeting. Just wanted to remind you that that's coming March 24th.
Super. Thank you, Dr. Mullins. We look forward to it. Any additional discussion? There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Have a great night.